Okay, so we're going to talk about the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So the hypothalamus is a structure that's part of the diencephalon. It is sort of anterior, inferior to the diencephalon. The kind of pokes out downward like this, and then above it is the thalamus, and then the back of it is the epithalamus, which has the pineal gland. So this is the hypothalamus. And we know that the hypothalamus, pretty important. It controls the ANS, it controls the endocrine system. It is in charge of body homeostasis. So the hypothalamus is connected to the pituitary gland through something called the infundibulum. And this should be a review from AP1 when we did the nervous system. So if I extend this down a little, let me make a big thing here, and then up, and then over here, let's make a big thing here. There are basically two parts of the pituitary gland. So we have the anterior pituitary, and we have the posterior pituitary. So ant-pit and post-pit. The area that connects it is called the infundibulum. Okay, so I did these in two separate colors because posterior pituitary is really an extension of the hypothalamus. It is neural tissue, and just a second, my pen back. Okay. So it's really an extension of that hypothalamus. It is neural tissue. All right, the anterior pituitary is glandular tissue. So the connection between hypothalamus and posterior pituitary is neural, and the connection between hypothalamus and anterior pituitary is through the blood. So if we look at the posterior pituitary first, the hypothalamus contains nuclei up in here, up in its thing. And these nuclei are what produce the hormones that the hypothalamus is responsible for, okay? So in the posterior pituitary, you've got two nuclei that make the hormones for posterior pituitary. And they send those hormones, our hypothalamus sends those hormones down an axon into the posterior pituitary. This area here is what we call the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract. Hypophyseal tract. Because we know that a tract, if we remember from last semester, is a bundle of axons in the central nervous system. So the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract. So these are axons, and the hormones are stored in the terminals. And when it is time for them to secrete their hormone, they are secreted from the axons into the blood. Posterior pituitary does not make any hormones. The hypothalamus makes the hormones for post-pit. All right. Anterior pituitary is different in that the connection is not through the axons. However, the axons do make the releasing hormones that are communicated to the anterior pituitary for anterior pituitary to secrete its hormones. So this thing is going to contain releasing hormones. And the releasing hormones are secreted into the blood. So in the anterior, or in the hypothalamus, there is a capillary bed, and in the anterior pituitary, there is a capillary bed. And these two capillary beds, this is capillary bed. We'll call this capillary bed 1 and this capillary bed 2. And they are linked together through blood vessels. Two capillary beds that are two capillary beds that are linked together is called a portal system. And this here is called the hypophyseal portal system. So what happens here is that the hypothalamus dumps its releasing hormones into capillary bed 1. They travel down the portal system, or the hypophyseal portal system, into the anterior pituitary to its second capillary bed, where it has cells that produce stimulating hormones. And these hormones in these cells then secrete their hormones into the blood. Crazy blood vessels. These are, again, called stimulating hormones. Okay, so that's the general makeup of the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So on the next video, we're going to talk about the posterior pituitary.